Your Dachshund is built differently from every other dog you've ever owned. That long, low body, those short legs, that barrel chest. It's adorable, and it's also a genetic blueprint for very specific problems. Here's the part most owners never hear. The single biggest factor in whether your Dachshund lives a long, pain-free life isn't their walks, their vet visits, or even their genes. It's what goes in the food bowl. Most feeding advice you find online is written for dogs in general, but a Dachshund is not a generic dog. The way you feed a Labrador will quietly hurt a Dachshund, and by the time the damage shows up, a slipped disc, a swollen pancreas, a back leg that suddenly stops working, it's often too late to undo. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 10 feeding mistakes that are specifically dangerous for this breed. Not vague tips. Real Dachshund-specific errors that vets see destroy these little dogs over and over. Stick around to the end, because the last 3 are the ones almost every loving Dachshund owner is making right now without realizing it. Let's get into it. Number 1. Treating extra weight as a cosmetic problem instead of a spinal emergency. Here's something you need to burn into your memory. In most breeds, a few extra pounds is a health issue. In a Dachshund, it's a structural one. Your dog's long spine is suspended between 2 sets of short legs like a bridge, and every ounce of belly weight pulls down on that bridge. The gene that gives Dachshunds their iconic short legs, chondrodystrophy, is the very same gene linked to their discs degenerating early. So when you let a Dachshund get chubby, you aren't just adding weight, you're piling load onto a spine that is already genetically primed to fail. This is why "he's just a little round, it's cute" is one of the most dangerous sentences a Dachshund owner can say. That roundness is the difference between a dog who jumps onto the couch fine at age 8 and a dog who screams, drags his back legs, and ends up in emergency surgery. You should be able to feel your Dachshund's ribs with light pressure, like the back of your hand. If you have to press to find them, you're not looking at a chubby dog, you're looking at a back injury waiting to happen. Number 2. Free feeding and leaving the bowl down all day. A lot of owners fill the bowl in the morning and let their dog graze. With many breeds, that's lazy but survivable. With a Dachshund, it's a slow-motion disaster. This breed has one of the strongest food drives in the entire dog world. They were bred to hunt badgers underground, relentless, determined, food-motivated little machines. That drive doesn't switch off at the dinner bowl. A Dachshund will rarely self-regulate, leave food out, and most of them will eat far past the point they need. Free feeding also robs you of the one tool that matters most for this breed: portion control you can actually see. When food is always available, you have no idea how much your dog is really eating, which means you can't catch weight creep until it's already a problem. Switch to measured meals at set times. You want to be the one deciding how much goes in, because your Dachshund absolutely cannot be trusted to make that call. Number 3. Eyeballing the portion instead of measuring it. A couple of scoops is how a Dachshund gets fat. These are small dogs, and small dogs run on tiny margins. A standard Dachshund might only need somewhere in the range of a cup of food a day, and a miniature far less. When the entire daily requirement is that small, being a little generous at each meal isn't a rounding error. It can be a 20 or 30% overfeed every single day for years. Use an actual measuring cup, or better, a kitchen scale, and follow the feeding guide on the food as a starting point. Then adjust based on your dog's body, not your eyes. And here's the Dachshund-specific trap. That deep barrel chest and loose skin hides weight beautifully. A Dachshund can be genuinely overweight while still looking normal from above, because the chest disguises the belly. So don't judge by the silhouette, judge by the ribs and by whether there's a visible tuck up behind the rib cage when you look from the side. Number 4. Feeding fatty table scraps and human food. This one isn't just about weight, it's about a specific organ. Dachshunds are one of the breeds most prone to pancreatitis, a painful and sometimes fatal inflammation of the pancreas. And the number 1 trigger for a pancreatitis flare is a sudden hit of fatty food. That means the bacon rind you tossed him, the buttery leftovers, the fatty trimmings off your plate, the holiday gravy. For a Dachshund, those aren't treats, they're a loaded gun. The terrifying part is how fast it happens. A dachshund can be completely fine one evening, get a few greasy scraps off the dinner table, and be doubled over in pain by morning, vomiting, refusing to eat, hunched up because their stomach hurts. Pancreatitis lands these dogs in the emergency vet constantly, and a lot of those cases trace straight back to "we just gave him a little of what we were eating." If you take one thing from this whole video, let it be this: keep the human food, and especially the fatty human food, completely away from your dachshund.
Number 5. Not counting treats as part of the daily food. Be honest with yourself about how many treats your dachshund gets in a day. The one for going outside, the one for coming back in, the one when you leave for work, the one when you get home, the little piece you sneak under the table. For a big dog, a handful of treats is a snack. For a dachshund running on a tiny daily calorie budget, that handful can be a huge chunk of everything they're allowed to eat. The rule vets use is that treats should make up no more than about 10% of daily calories. In a small dog, 10% is almost nothing, sometimes just 1 or 2 small pieces, so every treat you give has to come out of the meal bowl, not on top of it. And because dachshunds are such expert beggars, those soulful, pleading eyes are a finely tuned manipulation tool. Owners massively overtreat this breed specifically. Switch to tiny, low-calorie treats, break them into even smaller pieces, and use part of the dog's actual kibble as training rewards. Your dachshund cannot tell the difference between a big treat and a small one. They just care that they got something. Number 6. Dumping it all into one big meal a day. Some owners feed a single large meal, thinking it's simpler. For a dachshund, splitting the daily food into 2 or even 3 smaller meals is the smarter move, and for a few breed-specific reasons. Miniature dachshunds in particular can be prone to blood sugar dips when they go too long between meals, especially as puppies. Smaller, more frequent meals keep them steadier. There's also the gulping problem. Dachshunds with that strong food drive tend to inhale their food rather than eat it. A huge single portion hitting an empty, eager stomach all at once makes that worse. More gulping, more swallowed air, more risk of an upset gut. Spreading the food across the day calms the whole thing down. It keeps your dog feeling fed instead of frantic, which also takes the edge off the begging you saw in the last point. 2 measured meals, morning and evening, is a solid default for most adult dachshunds. Number 7. Letting your dachshund gulp food at top speed. Watch your dachshund eat. If the bowl is empty in 15 seconds and they're looking up like they never ate at all, you've got a gulper. And most of this breed are. That speed isn't harmless. Gulping means swallowing a lot of air, which leads to gas, bloating, and discomfort. And it means food going down in chunks that aren't chewed, which is rough on a small digestive system and a choking risk with bigger pieces. The fix is genuinely fun, and it's perfect for this breed. Slow things down on purpose. A slow feeder bowl with ridges forces them to work the food out bit by bit. A puzzle feeder or a snuffle mat turns dinner into a hunt, which for a dog literally bred to dig prey out of tunnels, scratches a deep instinct and tires out their busy little brain at the same time. You're not just protecting their gut, you're giving a working breed a job. A dachshund who has to forage for breakfast is a calmer, more satisfied dog. Number 8. Ignoring how feeding habits wreck their teeth. Dachshunds have a mouth problem most owners don't think about until it's expensive. They're a small breed with a relatively long, narrow muzzle, and their teeth are crowded together, which makes them especially prone to plaque, tartar, and serious gum disease. And the way you feed plays straight into it. Constant grazing, sugary or sticky treats, and soft food clinging to crowded teeth all speed up the decay. This matters more than you'd think, because dental disease in a small dog isn't just bad breath. Infected gums feed bacteria into the bloodstream and can damage the heart and kidneys over time. So feeding choices that seem unrelated to the mouth, the type of treats, whether food sits on the teeth all day, whether they ever get anything that helps clean as they chew, actually shape your dog's whole body health. Be deliberate about it. Avoid sticky, sugary treats, don't leave food sitting out to coat the teeth, and pair good feeding with actual toothbrushing. For a breed this prone to dental trouble, what's in the bowl and what's on the teeth are the same conversation. Number 9. Switching foods suddenly or feeding the wrong puppy diet. Two related errors here, both rough on a dachshund specifically. First, the sudden switch. Dachshunds often have sensitive stomachs, and slamming a new food into them overnight is a recipe for diarrhea, vomiting, and a miserable dog. Any food change should happen slowly, over a week or more, a little new mixed into the old, gradually shifting the ratio so their gut has time to adjust. With a pancreatitis-prone breed, you do not want to be picking fights with their digestion. Second, and this one's for puppy owners, do not overfeed a dachshund puppy to make them grow fast. With this breed, fast, heavy growth is the last thing you want. Their skeleton, that long spine and those short legs, needs to develop slowly and steadily. Pushing extra food and rapid weight gain onto a growing dachshund stresses joints and a back that are still forming. Feed a puppy appropriate diet in proper measured amounts, keep them lean even as babies, and let them grow at the pace their body intends. A slim dachshund puppy is a healthy dachshund puppy. Number 10. Feeding right before letting them jump and climb. This is the one almost nobody connects to feeding, and it ties this whole list together. You feed your dachshund a full meal, and then, because they're excited and fed and happy, you let them launch off the couch, sprint up the stairs, and leap on and off the furniture. Think about what's happening physically. You've got a long-backed dog now carrying a full, heavy stomach, repeatedly twisting and jolting the most vulnerable spine in the dog world. Every jump down from a height sends a shockwave through those genetically fragile discs, and doing it on a full belly only adds load. Over months and years, this is exactly how the back injuries that haunt this breed get triggered. So manage the moment around meals. After eating, keep things calm. And as a permanent habit for this breed, cut out the high-impact jumping altogether. Use ramps or steps to the couch and bed. Block off staircases when you can, and lift them down rather than letting them leap. Combine that with keeping them lean from everything we've already covered, and you've removed the two biggest controllable causes of dachshund back disease: too much weight and too much impact. Those two together are the whole ballgame for this breed. So there you have it, 10 feeding mistakes that hit dachshunds harder than any other breed. And notice the thread running through every single one. It all comes back to protecting that long, beautiful, fragile body. Keep them lean, measure the food, count the treats, guard them from fatty scraps and pancreatitis, slow down the gulping, mind the teeth, ease the transitions, and never let a full, heavy dog go launching off the furniture. None of this is hard. It just requires you to stop feeding your dachshund like a generic dog and start feeding them like a specialized little hunter they actually are. Do that, and you give your dog the best possible shot at a long life with a strong back and a happy gut. If this helped you see your dachshund's bowl a little differently, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach other dachshund owners who need to hear this before it's too late. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell, because the next video breaks down the early warning signs of back trouble in dachshunds, the subtle stuff most owners miss until it becomes an emergency. You won't want to miss that one. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 mistakes were you making without realizing it? Drop a number in the comments and let me know. I read them, I reply, and your dachshund story might just help someone else. Thanks for watching, and give that little hot dog a gentle belly rub from me.